Chapter 8.2, Angle Bisectors of Triangles. Bisectores de ángulos de triángulos. Okay, so in this chapter, we're going to go over the angle bisector theorem and its converse. If a point is on the bisector of an angle, then it is equidistant from the sides of the angle. So first of all, let's remember what this means right here. The bisector of an angle. By the way, they wrote that wrong. They switched the word and of. I just noticed that. Okay, anyways, eso está escrito mal. Hicieron un error en el libro. Okay, so the bisector of an angle, remember I told you guys the easiest way to remember what a bisector is something that's going through the middle. It's going through the middle. In this case, it's going through the middle of what? It's going through the middle of an angle. So if you look at angle APB, angle APB, all right, this ray is the angle bisector. This ray is the angle bisector. How do I know that this ray is the angle bisector? Because if you look down here, it's kind of small, but if you look down here, those little lines on each side is telling you that this angle equals this angle. They both are equal in measurement. So that means that this ray has to be exactly in the middle, so it's the angle bisector. Ray PC is the angle bisector of angle APB. Okay, now look at what it's saying here. This is the important part. If a point is on the bisector of an angle, so for example, point C, look at point C. If that point is on the bisector of an angle, which it is, then it has to be equidistant. That means equally distant from the sides of the angle. In other words, CA is going to be congruent to CB. The length of this segment, CA, is going to be equal to the length of this segment, CB. That's the key thing to take away from there. That's what it's saying down here. Since angle APC is this one right here, since angle APC is congruent to angle BPC, okay, since they're congruent, that means that this has to be the angle bisector because it's exactly in the middle. So AC equals BC. AC equals BC. If you understood that, the problems are going to be real simple. And then right down here, the converse of that theorem is the same thing in reverse. Here they're not telling us here that this angle equals this angle. However, they are telling us that this segment, because of this line right here, segment AC is congruent to segment BC. These two segments are equal. If these two segments are equal, that means that this is the angle bisector, so therefore this angle is congruent to this angle. Once I start doing the examples, hopefully it'll make sense, but it's simple. It's nothing difficult. Let me just repeat all this in Spanish real quick. Okay, en español. El teorema de bisectores de ángulos. Ok, primero que nada, recuerden lo que quiere decir el bisector de un ángulo. Bisector quiere decir que va por el medio. Está bisectando el ángulo, así que va por el medio del ángulo. Así que en este diagrama, el rayo PC es el bisector del ángulo APB. Está exactamente en el medio. ¿Cómo yo sé eso? Porque si miran el diagrama, esas dos rayitas son bien chiquitos, pero se pueden ver. Esas dos rayitas te están diciendo que ángulo APC mide igual a ángulo BPC. Son congruentes. ¿Ok? Ahora para la parte importante que dice aquí, si un punto queda encima del bisector de un ángulo, entonces ese punto tiene que ser equidistante de los lados del ángulo. Así que, por ejemplo, el punto C en este diagrama, como ese punto está encima del bisector del ángulo, tiene que ser equidistante de los lados de ese ángulo. Así que la distancia desde C a A, esa distancia tiene que ser congruente a la distancia de C a B. Los dos tienen que medir igual. Eso es lo que le están diciendo aquí, que si el ángulo APC es congruente al ángulo BPC, esa parte no dice que el rayo PC tiene que quedar en el medio si estos dos ángulos son congruentes. Entonces el segmento AC tiene que ser equivalente tiene que medir igual que el segmento BC. Y abajo está el inverso. Aquí abajo no nos están diciendo al principio que estos dos ángulos son congruentes, pero sí nos están diciendo que el segmento CA es congruente al segmento CB. Los dos miden igual. Si los dos miden igual, eso quiere decir que este punto queda encima del bisector de ángulo APB. Y entonces eso quiere decir que este ángulo aquí mide igual que este ángulo aquí. Es el inverso de lo que decía arriba. Los problemas son fáciles. Vamos a mirar los problemas. All right, so here's our first example. Look how simple this is. All right, we got to find the measure of LM. Tenemos que encontrar la medida de LM. So if you look at the picture, if you look at the diagram, look right there and right there. Those little lines are telling you that angle JKM measures the same as angle MKL. So therefore, this is the angle bisector. If that's the angle bisector, that means that JM is going to be equal to ML. Or LM, however you want to call it. So that means that this also has to be 12.8. And that's my answer. Because this segment has to measure the same as this segment. They both got to be equal. Simple, huh? Ok, aquí nos está enseñando que estos dos ángulos miden igual. Así que este rayo es el bisector de ángulo JKL. Y si ese ángulo es el bisector, la distancia de este M a J tiene que ser equivalente a la distancia de este M a L. Y la pregunta es que la distancia del segmento LM tiene que ser igual, 12.8. Alright, they're not all going to be that easy. Let's look at another one, okay? No todos van a ser así, ese es demasiado fácil. Alright, so it says here, the measure of angle ABD, oh, I'm sorry, we got to find the measure of angle ABD given that the measure of angle ABC is 112. Okay, tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo ABD si la medida de ángulo ABC, este ángulo completo, es 112. So all of this is 112. Okay, so basically, hold on one second. Oh, since you look up here a second, look at point D. Notice that the distance from D to A is 74, and the distance from D to C is also 74. That means that this ray is the angle bisector, so each one of these angles has to be 112 divided by 2, which is going to be 56 degrees. Alright, so you know that ray BD bisects angle ABC by the angle bisector theorem. So the measure of angle ABD is half of the measure of angle ABC. So it's going to be 56 degrees. All right, look at number 4. Find each measure. They want us to find the measure of QS. All right, this one's obviously very simple. Again, because of these lines right here, this line and this line, that's telling you that this is the angle bisector, okay? Estas dos rayitas te está diciendo que este es el bisector del ángulo. So if this segment is 14.7, this one is also 14.7. Este segmento tiene que medir igual que este segmento porque la distancia del punto C a Q y R tiene que ser igual. By the way, something they said at the beginning and I kind of skipped over, but let me just mention it real quick. It's not a big deal because it's going to be in every diagram. But always the distance from this point to this line, because if I draw a line from point S to this ray down here, I could have drawn the line like that or like that. But the distance is always a line that is perpendicular to this segment. That's why you see this square here and this square here. It's going to be in all your diagrams, so you don't have to worry about that, but I'm just pointing that out, okay? Because it said it at the beginning of the chapter. I just skipped it on the first slide. Algo que estaba en la primera, lo primero que enseñé, pero no dije nada, es que la distancia de un punto a una línea siempre es una línea perpendicular a esta línea aquí. ¿ok? Porque la distancia de el punto S hasta este rayo aquí lo podía haber dibujado una línea así o así, pero siempre tiene que ser una línea perpendicular. No tienen que preocuparse de eso porque no lo van a tener que dibujar y eso va a estar en todos los diagramas, pero simplemente lo estoy mencionando por si alguien estaba pensando de eso. All right, look at number 5. The measure of angle LJM, that's what we got to find. Given that the measure of angle KJM is 29 degrees. Así que tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo LJM. So if this is 29 degrees, first of all, this right here is telling us that this is the angle bisector because both of these segments are 62. Como los dos segmentos aquí miden igual, 62, eso nos dice que este rayo es el bisector de este ángulo. Si este mide 29, este también mide 29. All right, if this one's 29 degrees, this one's also 29 degrees. So the measure of the entire thing, LJM, has to be 29 times 2, which is 58 degrees. 29 por 2. So 58 degrees. All right, let's look at this one. Same, they're all pretty much the same thing, right? Right here, this tells us that this is the angle bisector. Esto nos está diciendo que este es el bisector del ángulo. So if this is 4.9, this also has to be 4.9. And that's our answer. All right. Look at number 3, the measure of angle LKM. LKM, that's what we got to find, the measure of angle LKM, given that the measure of angle JKL is 63. So the whole thing is 63 degrees. If we look here, this segment is 9.5 and this segment is 9.5. That means that this is the angle bisector. So if the whole thing is 63 and you want to find one of these, you got to divide 63 by 2. What am I writing? 63 divided by 2, which will give you 31.5. All right, so the answer would be 31.5 degrees. Ok, como estos dos segmentos miden igual y nos dice que la medida de ángulo JKL, este ángulo entero, es 63 grados, entonces para encontrar cualquiera de estos dos se tiene que dividir 63 por 2, que nos va a dar 31.5. And I believe these are the last examples. They're all the same thing, as you can see. All right, so find the length of segment AD. All right, so we already did several like this. It's got to be the same thing. Ya hicimos varios como este. El segmento AD tiene que medir igual que el segmento DC. And then on this one, find the measure of angle HFJ, given that the measure of angle GFJ is 45 degrees. Okay, so if this one's 45 degrees, this one's also 45 degrees. So the entire thing has to be 90 degrees. Okay, si este ángulo es 45 y este es el bisector del ángulo, este también tiene que ser 45. En total, la medida de ángulo HFJ tiene que ser 90 grados. All right, guys. I do have a few more to go. Let me pause the recording for 1 second before I start these. All right, guys. This is the last types of problems that I got to go over. They involve algebra, and these are on your homework. You've seen problems like this before, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, but so look at number 12. You got to find the measure of segment BC. Tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo BC. Estos problemas tienen álgebra, pero ya hemos visto problemas como estos, así que no debe ser nada difícil. All right, so these lines right here tell us that these angles are equal, so therefore the ray AB, that's the angle bisector. If ray AB is the angle bisector, that means that this segment has to equal the length of this segment, and that's how I'm going to set up my problem. They're all going to be the same, either with the segments or with the angles, but it's all going to be the same thing. Esta rayita me dice que los dos ángulos miden igual, así que el rayo AB tiene que ser el bisector del ángulo, y si el rayo AB es el bisector, entonces el segmento BC tiene que ser equivalente, tiene que medir igual que el segmento BD. Todos los problemas van a ser la misma cosa, si no con los segmentos que son igual, con los ángulos que son igual, que lo van a ver en un momento. Alright, so right here I got to solve for y. So let me move 4y to the left and subtract it. That's going to give me 2y. And move minus 16 to the right by adding it, which is going to give me 22. So y equals 22 divided by 2. So y equals 11. However, that's not my answer because the question is, what is the length of segment BC? So now I gotta substitute the 11 right there, okay, and do 6 times 11. 6 times 11 is 66, and 66 minus 16 is 50. So my answer is 50. Okay, así que resolví para y que me dio 11, pero la pregunta no era qué valor tiene y, la pregunta es cuánto mide el segmento BC. Así que el último paso es sustituir el valor de y en esta expresión y hacer 6 por 11 que me da 66 menos 16 que me dio 50. Alright, let's look at number 13, el 13. Find the length of segment VY. This is the same thing, okay? Same exact thing, la misma cosa. So 5m minus 3 equals 2m plus 9. I'm going to move 2m to the left by subtracting. So I'm going to have 3m. I'm going to move the minus 3 to the right by adding 3. So 3m equals 12. M equals 12 divided by 3. M equals 4. Okay, now to find the length of segment VY, I got to substitute and plug in right there for M. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 9 is 17. All right, let's look at number 14, the measure of angle JKL. Again, if you look here at this picture, this line and this line means that these two segments are equal. Therefore, KL is the angle bisector, which means that this angle has to equal this angle. En el diagrama nos está enseñando que este segmento mide igual que este segmento. Así que rayo KL es el bisector del ángulo. Así que este ángulo tiene que medir igual que este ángulo. So let me set up my equation that way and put them both equal to each other. So I'm gonna move the 2x to the right by subtracting to both sides. 3x minus 2x is 1x. Move the minus 9 to the left by adding 9 to both sides. 1 plus 9 is 10. So x equals 10. But the question is, what is the measure of angle JKL? JKL. So now I got to substitute by plugging in the 10 right there. 2 times 10 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21 degrees, and that is my answer. Okay, x es igual a 10. Ahora tengo que sustituir el 10 aquí para x. 2 por 10 es 20 y 20 más 1 es 21, que es mi respuesta. And last one, number 15, the measure of angle GDF is what we got to find. So again, if you look here, the distance from F to G is 2.7, and the distance from F to H is also 2.7. That means that this is the angle bisector, so these two angles got to equal each other. So I'm going to move the 6y to the right by subtracting. 7y minus 6y is 1y. And I'm going to move the minus 3 to the left by adding. 3 plus 3 is 6. So y equals 6. Now I got to plug it in, GDF. GDF, so I'm going to plug it in right here. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 3 is 39. 6 por 6 es 36. Y 36 más 3 es 39. Alright guys, so the assignment is in the student portal. And it's due by 6 a.m. the next day that you have my class. La tarea está en el portal de estudiante y lo tienen que entregar antes de las 6 de la mañana el próximo día que tienen mi clase. That concludes today's lesson. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Que tengan buen día.